everyone, it's Allison. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have a really fun video today using, surprise, more pattern paper. I'm not really sure what my current obsession with pattern paper is, but I am just embracing it. So as you know, if you watched my last video, I was at the Create event last week in Ohio, the Simon Says Stamp big event. And it was amazing. It filled my bucket. It was just kind of everything that I needed to kind of re-energize and, get my crafty mojo back. But while I was there, I kept finding the pattern paper. And here is one of the pattern paper packs that I bought while I was there. This is the Night City paper pack. And this is from La La Land Crafts. And if you're familiar with them, they're a really amazing company, first of all. I actually used to design for their monthly club kits a few years ago. And first of all, let's look at this paper. It's pretty heavy weight. Not heavy, but it's a pretty substantial weight. And it's kind of, I'm going to describe it as semi-glossy. Now, this paper obviously is incredible for superhero themed cards, comic book type cards. There's just something about this paper that I just love, and I had to have it. But La La Land Crafts, they have tons of dies, wonderful critter stamps, and then of course this kind of the star is Marcy. And Marcy is a stamp, and every month she kind of gets a new theme, and she's adorable. Now these are the Postage collage dies from Waffle Flower Crafts. I'm sure you've seen these. This is actually the A6 size, and this is the first time I'm using them. I've kind of maybe late to the game with these, but I love how they came up with different sizes. So again, this is the A6 size. So I'm going to use this paper, and I'm taking the postage die and kind of deciding where I want to cut it. Now, I'm not making a superhero card. I'm not making a comic book card. I'm actually making a graduation card. So here is what it looks like when you cut it. It's kind of hard to tell when it's not white, but I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to put a white piece of paper in the back so you can see. Along these perforated lines, I'm just cutting right down the middle. And when you cut down the middle of these lines, it creates this postage edge. So I'll show you this little piece in a minute when I get it all cut out. And so you see, isn't that clever how you can just cut down those edges and it creates all these stamp shapes? Now, so this postage collection of Waffle Flower is growing by the month. Again, this die comes in many different sizes. The original size was an A2, but they've added the A6, an A7, a slimline, a mini slimline. All right, let's look at the balloons that I'm using on this card. These are the birthday balloons from Spellbinders. These came out a few months ago with the Monster birthday collection. And I've cut them out of yellow cardstock, and now I'm just going to ink up the very edges of the balloons just to kind of create a highlight in the middle. Now, I was saying that this isn't a comic book or superhero themed card. I am making this into a graduation card. So that's why I have the 2 and the 4. Now I'm taking my little inexpensive daubers and I'm taking a darker color ink. I think this was Wild Honey. And I'm just inking up the edges. And that's really gonna really highlight that outline. And so that's what they look like when they're done. All right, so here are the stamps, and we are going to use some graduation themed products. This is the Grad Party stamp set. I used this recently. I actually use this on almost all of my graduation cards. And I'm going to use this little class of sentiment. This is from a little stamp set from the Greetery that I believe is retired now, but comes in handy. So I'm going to take all of these little stamp shapes and I'm adding some foam tape, but this is pretty thin foam tape. This is my Big Momma foam tape roll from Simon Says Stamp. And I've already put 2 of these stamps on my white panel, and I'm using my straight edge, my T-square ruler, to make sure that it's all lined up nice and straight. And the white panel that I have is bigger than my final panel. I didn't know what size it was going to end up once I put all these postage stamps together. So once I'm done, I can just trim it, and you can see I've already done that off camera. All right, these are the postage stamp edge frames from Simon Says Stamp. And again, there's that sentiment that I'm going to use. It says change the world. Now this stamp set has matching dies. I don't have them. So I'm going to do some partial die cutting to make this die the right size for this sentiment. So you can see it's a square die, and I've just taken a scrap piece of paper and I ran it through my die cutting machine, but I didn't run it all the way through because this is where the partial die cutting comes in. I'm going to pop this back in, figure out how big I want it. I'm just taking that stamp to figure that out. And because those edges are uniform, they're going to pop into the die cutting that I've already done. So you can see me you'll see me in a second, pop it in. And once I have it in place and it doesn't move, then I know that I have it where I need it. And then I'll run it back through again, just doing the partial cut where that pink tape was. So here is the piece, and I'm sorry I didn't do that on screen. I have done partial die cutting before in my videos, and here you see me just stamping the stamp, and I'm taking one of the little sub-sentiments and I'm going to add it on there, and it says you will, so you will change the world. And again, I use this stamp set almost every time I make a graduation card. I just think it's just one of those classic sets. All right, these balloons have these little indentations in them. And if you saw me do my monster, cute little monsters for Spellbinders, I did this with the number on that on one of those cards as well. I'm just taking a colored pencil and I'm coloring in those indentations just to add little highlights. And I'm not pressing very hard. I'm really doing this ever so slightly. I didn't want the highlights to stand out that much, but you'll see the difference between the 4 and the 2. And here is the card finish. I did add the little strings. You'll see at the bottom of the balloons that those come in the set with those balloons. And then you'll see I added a sentiment on the inside, again from that same stamp set. So I think it's a unique graduation card, this theme with this pattern paper. And the pattern paper just makes me smile. And speaking of smiling, this is the Countryside paper pack, again from La La Land Crafts. Another paper pack that I bought at Create because how could you not love this paper pack? Look at all of these scenes that you can use for your cards. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that I'm kind of late to the game with these postage stamp dies. I've seen people do the most amazing things with these postage stamps. A lot of people do masking and then create little scenes with their stamps. I am not a big masker. I'm just not. I should probably try and challenge myself. But I'm going to create little scenes with this patterned paper. And I think it's just a really fun use of patterned paper. I think it's a really fun use of these postage stamps. And these little scenes on this paper just make me smile. So here's what the postage die looks like when it's cut out in white. And you can leave it intact like that. I'm taking the die itself and I'm just peeking through the openings of this die to figure out what scenes I want to cut out. So once I figure out the scenes, I'm going to measure each of these little stamps. And I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but there's a little stitching on the outside of the stamps. And I want my little scenes to be just smaller than that stitched area. So I was measuring that stitched area of each stamp and then cutting my scenes accordingly. So here I am cutting these stamps with my paper trimmer now. Before I showed you how to do it with the scissors, but you can do it with your paper trimmer. And it's just really easy. You just go right down the middle of those perforated lines. And then I'm just going to glue each scene into its corresponding stamp. So I'll do that for all of my little stamps. Now here's the Postage Collage stamp set. This is the original stamp set. They've come out with many postage stamp sets since then. There's been different themes, but this is just the original. And I am using Memento Tuxedo black ink. This, remember I mentioned this paper is kind of semi-glossy, and I was kind of worried about using my pigment ink on it. I wasn't sure if it would dry or if it would take a long time to dry, and the Memento ink worked quite well. I just had to stamp it a few times. Now look at these little guys. This is the Dandy Day stamp set. I wanted like a little critter, and I haven't used this stamp set before, so it's a good way to pull something out of my stash that I haven't used. And again, well, obviously that was from Lawn Fawn. This is my Altenew ink blending tool. This is a really big flat brush, and I'm just taking some Oxide ink and very lightly creating the illusion of clouds. Now I could have taken a cloud stencil. I have lots of cloud stencils in my stash, but I just really wanted just a soft hint of clouds. And these brushes are really good for getting an all over soft blend on your paper. So there you see just, ever so slightly or ever so slight hint of clouds. All right, these little dies are in the Postage Collage die set. And this Sending Hugs comes from the Subsentiments Hugs die cut from Waffle Flower. And you can see you just pop them out and those sentiments are ready to go. And now I'm just going to start trying to arrange my stamps. And I'm also trying to figure out where to put this cute little guy. Now I'm going to show you something that I do when I add accessories onto little stamps. I like to cut it so the white area around the bottom of the stem is gone. So when I glue the stem to the mouse, it looks continuous. You don't have to do that. I don't know why I do it, but I like the look of it. It's, you could also mask it so that the mouse is holding the dandelion, and then you could fussy cut the mouse out, but I happen to have the dies. But it's just a little detail that I like doing. Now you'll see that I glued the bottom stamps to the panel, and now I'm popping up some of the stamps that are going to overlap. And right now I'm using my Big Momma foam tape roll, and you'll see some of my stamps I'm trying to cover up, not boo-boos on other stamps, but like this one is covering something that I stamped on the one below it because I just didn't like it. So rather than redo a stamp, I'm just going to cover up what I didn't like. And that Forever stamp, by the way, I popped up on thicker foam tape. These are little foam squares from Simon Says Stamp that are thicker than that foam tape roll. And there goes the little dandelion. And I'm going to add my sentiment. And the mouse in the middle, adorable mouse. I also popped that up on those foam squares. All right, now here's a risky move, but I felt like that stamp at the bottom needed a little element from that stamp set. And you can see I used some masking tape to protect the rest of the card. And because I had to use my acrylic block, I did use pigment ink because I knew I had one chance to get a good stamping. And thankfully, I did get a good stamping. And as far as the finished card, you'll see I have little white hearts scattered around. And I added a little round stamp at the bottom with a heart in the middle. And this card just really makes me happy. I hope that you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you enjoy watching a little bit of a different take on these postage stamps. I was gonna kind of go into the Create event and show you some pictures, but we'll have to say that for another video. Suffice it to say that I just had an amazing time. It was great to see old friends and make new friends. If you ever have the opportunity to go to a crafty retreat or anything like that, I really encourage you to do so. It's just a really uplifting experience. It's nice to be around people, like-minded people. And again, I saw people that I had met last year. I met people who I talk with all the time online. You know, we always comment on each other's cards. And then I met entirely new people that I hadn't known before, and we've been texting every day. And, you know, I know that we'll be good friends going forward. And it just, again, the weekend filled my bucket, and it was kind of just what I needed. So again, you know, maybe I'll try to show some photos in a later video. If you're interested in that, let me know. And that is it for me today. I really appreciate you joining me. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.